Hey guys, it's Chris Mincola with the Mincola Group over at West USA Realty, and I'm doing our housing weekly market update from the Phoenix area. And the theme of today is going to be, as usual, the Fed is going to be late to the party, as always. So, strap in. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to jump right into what's happening. I spoke about a couple of things last week. I just wanted to kind of reiterate. I'm not going to pull up the charts and everything again, but basically, one of the big things was that shelter cost increases have dropped considerably. I showed the chart last week. Go back and check it out. But what does that mean? That means that is, depending on which inflation chart you're looking at, about 41 to 44% of the entire inflation picture you're looking at. But the problem is, in other words, the Fed has done what they set out to do late, of course, and they set us up for this in fixing the rates to begin with that were super low that we loved. Of course, everybody was loving those low rates, but because they were basically backfilling that whole bond market thing. But what is interesting now is that since those shelter costs have dropped off and inflation has dropped off, and a lot of, not saying stuff's not more expensive, but the rate of increase, okay? Let's be clear, the rate of increase for rents and overall inflation has dropped, okay? Not saying that those inflationary factors aren't baked in. It costs more to buy a house, a car, food, all that stuff. Everybody knows all that. And stuff's more expensive now. um Salaries have caught up a bit, but people are still feeling the crunch. And a lot of these jobs numbers that they're going for in their old 1970s model that the Fed uses to kind of see where things are at. We're in a totally different economy now, where a lot of stuff's not brick and mortar. If it is, it's offline. It's we're dealing with this whole global market. People are making money, just doing podcasts and stuff. Okay. So the total economy's changed and they haven't quite changed with it and shifted with it. Also, they're not looking at some very important data points, or they're not caught up with it because of the way that they look at things. They're always looking at things after they happen. And that's so important for you to understand. I mean, even when there's a recession, they'll tell you about it months later, like 5 months later, you're going to find out about it. So it's important to really dig into the data. And what the data is actually saying is that, well, you hear on on TV that, oh, the jobs market's wonderful. It's so great. Until you actually get into it a little bit, get into it a little bit more. And that is that on paper, it may look okay at first, but when we take seasonal stuff into play and we look at surveys that were done, through uh, the different parties that do these different surveys, we see that there's a totally different story. We see 31,000 job losses. Average weekly hours worked also declined to the lowest level since 2010, including the pandemic. Okay. So that's important because one of the ways, this mentions one of the ways, businesses cut costs and cut the number of worked hours. On average, the entire workforce is working 30 minutes fewer per week, which equates to 2.4 million job losses on its own. Okay. So they're cutting back the number of hours people are working, right? Also, a lot of this again, besides seasonal, is people working second jobs. Okay. And they're not really able to get a good middle class or upper middle class pay like they think. A lot of younger people are starting to figure this out. You go to college, get into debt, and then you get out, and they're like, "Okay, where's my $100,000 a year job?" And it's not there. Okay, in a lot of cases. So slow start for private sector job growth. Progress on inflation has brightened the economic picture despite a slowdown in hiring and pay. Okay. So we and it goes into people who, job stayers, job changers, and how that's up. So you tell me if you think that that's enough of an increase to keep up with the over 9% increase in total inflation that we've seen at its peak. And then it, like I said, it has dropped off with the rate of increase, but everything still costs more, right? Everything, they didn't drop their prices, right? They didn't say, okay, now your rent's going to go back to $2,000. No, now it's still $3,000 or whatever. Okay. So that's kind of the idea there. But with that drop off, the Fed, in shelter costs and in these other things, the Fed should have already made their pivot. But again, they have this 1970s model idea that you've got to see the unemployment go way, 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 way down, and we've got to almost go into a recession. And they thought that was going to happen last year, and it didn't. Okay. Again, because we're in a totally different economy where people can pivot in some cases, and there are other ways of making money these days that maybe there weren't in the past in their 1970s model. And a lot of this restriction is also based off of things that were happening during COVID. So again, hopefully they get out of this at some point. Logan over at Housing Wire, Barry Habib, they talk about these sorts of things in depth, more in depth than I'm going to go into right here in this. But it's important to kind of know these things. So surprising uptick in job openings. So they're going to watch this, but yet we see that people, uh both initially and continued jobless claims have risen over the last 2 weeks to nearly 3-month highs. Plus, the latest job cuts report from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas showed that announced layoffs in January surge from December, and this could be reflective of future unemployment claim. See a lot of these big companies too laying people off. Even like what was it recently? It was like 6% of DocuSign employees were laid off. So um, anyway, they're looking at November year over year gain saw the largest growth in U.S. home prices in 2023. So where does that take us now? Well, let's look at what's going on with the bond market really quick and mortgage rates. So CPI revisions today, real CPI index on inflation will be you know, next week. So we're still doing good there. Mortgage apps rise 8%, purchase volume remains soft. There's going to be a little bit of catch up there, guys. So we've got to wait. I'm telling you, got to get through February, March to really start seeing where the stuff's going to be going. But like we said before, there's going to be searches increases, pre-approvals increases, under contract increases, and then closes increases, just like happens every year. But especially this year with going from 8 to under 7%. We told you there was going to be this back and forth game while the Fed is being hawkish on the idea of, well, we don't know. We're going to we may be waiting till May now instead of March, even though they should have the shelter cost data, even in their slow poke model that they use by February, March ish. We should really see rate cuts already. We should see rate cuts no later than March, but we may not see them till May. Uh, some people are of the idea that we're going to see 5 to 6%, 5 to 6 rate cuts this year. The more conservative number would be 3 rate cuts this year, 3 next year, and maybe the 3 following. And again, these don't directly correlate with mortgage rates, but they do indirectly affect the the bond market, the treasuries, the way that mortgage companies are going to set their rates and all those sorts of things for mortgage uh, rate for home buyers. So anyways, uptick in contract activity. This is, I'll get into the local Phoenix stuff here in a minute. New sales inventory increasing, and permit builders are boosting. All that's trending in the right direction. In other words, I just want to help you understand it. Everything's trending in the right direction if the Fed would just stop the nonsense. Okay. Um, you know, it's very funny, when people can't afford something, they don't buy it. And especially if they can't get it on credit. So the same would be for housing, right? We don't need to exasperate the whole situation. of the affordability crisis in housing for many today by not only the home prices being at all-time highs, but also keeping the rates not all-time highs, but this is really kind of a normal interest rate environment, 6, 7% kind of normal. I again, I've mentioned this the last couple times. If you go back and look 10-year segments, like from 2000 to 2010, it's going to hover right around that 6% mark. And you can go down the line, go before that, you'll see it was hovered around 7.5% for about an entire decade. Yeah, it goes up and down, and that could happen now. So when people say, I'm going to wait, see if rates come down, well, it's been a couple years now since they started in March of 2022 of really going crazy with this and trying to play catch up and all that, with after they fixed the market. And you know it is where it is now, and they've really caused people some financial problems. So we shall see. If they would just leave it alone, not fix it either way. If a house costs too much, people just aren't going to buy that house. If it's overpriced and they can't afford it, whatever, right? For the most part, we're seeing some good things here in the Phoenix area, though, which I'll get to in a second. So bond market trending down, that's good because we'll should see that correlate, like it said in the CPI report next week, with rates. But we knew this was going to happen. We were all the way down to about 6.6. Again, these are the average retail rates. If you want lower rates than this, you can get them, as long as you have good credit. Recommend talking to a mortgage broker just to kind of see about better pricing and all that. We have that, of course, or we can plug you into that. And if you find this information useful, please share it with your friends. Please like and share, follow. It really helps us get the word out. But here at the McCullough Group, we like to make sure we're working with the best, whether it's for home loans, whether it's for title and escrow. We want to make sure we're providing you the best information, or contractors, whatever it may be. So anyway, we're going to see this volatility until the Fed stops being hawkish, because it's what the bond market's going to run on and what the investors are going to run on there. So um, you know things in the Phoenix area. I mentioned this last week. I'll just briefly reiterate: new listings on the uptick. We're seeing under contract up 43% in our area. Okay, up 43% under contract. We're seeing, year over year, we're seeing listings, as far as the number of, right now, it's just over 16,000 active properties for sale. I just pulled up the MLS here. Yeah, just over 16,000. Um, and that is pretty, we have this kind of everybody trying to get their property on the market this time of year, of course. So there's going to be a little bit of a, but we'll see once people start getting closer to that springtime. Hopefully by May, rates drop. They should already drop, definitely by March, but could be till May. All right. Crawford Market Index over 110 is a seller's market on the index. These are the gurus that tell us what our multiple listing service is telling them in the data. And what's lower than, if it's lower than 90% on the index, it is a buyer's market. We are at 117.5. Guess what? Same spot we were last week. Okay. So those rates fluctuating around. People are like, Also, we're waiting for stuff to close and all that. We got a little bit of an influx of inventory this past week. So, things will start moving in the right direction, like we want to see them, as far as maybe stuff moving a little bit quicker, right? But demand is actually up. Last week it was 74.9, 76.2, and supply. So that's good. That's good news. We get buyers out there, right? The supply also increased from 63.7 to 64.9, and that puts us where we are right now. So on the actual cities around the valley, every city is trending in that direction of a seller's market as far as which way they're trending. Fountain Hill's actually trended down. That's where we got a little bit more inventory this week. Um, and also in Goodyear trended down just a hair. So Fountain is only 1% down, Goodyear 3%, but those are the trends. As far as the property or as far as the cities that are in a seller's market, you'd be looking at Peoria, Tempe, Avondale, Scottsdale, Mesa, Phoenix, Glendale, Fountain Hills, Gilbert, and Chandler. For a balanced market, you're looking at Cave Creek and Surprise, Paradise Valley, Goodyear, and then for a buyer's market, Queen Creek, Buckeye, and Maricopa. Um, I came across this just to kind of show. I just wanted to show you guys this property here. This is a brand new home. Okay, brand new property um, through DR Horton. Again, may not be for everybody, but it's in Tolleson, and that's kind of how it looks. It's a nice little starter property, right? It's 1788 square feet, 4 bed, 2 bath. It's going to be, your standard lot, 5125 square feet. So it's a 1 story, but it's, it's got that, light, bright, airy look, open look that people are going for right now. And it's a nice looking property. It's listed for 411. Okay. So, again, higher than we were 3, 4 years ago. But for today's standards, that is a great price on that property. And the other good thing is they're offering incentives. I've seen their rates buy downs as low as 3.9 percent. So I would say, let's talk about that. One other thing on that, and I just did a really quick, again, everybody's credit's going to be a little different and all that and what they're putting down, but just doing like first time home buyer conventional 3% down on that purchase price at, let's say, a 6% interest rate with a broker, be maybe around that 6% mark, just using round numbers. 30-year term is going to be 23.92 a month on that. So not too bad, not too shabby. So guys, that's really all I have for you this week. If you have any other questions at all, please let me know. We'll keep you up to date every week as we go along here. And again, please, follow us, share this, and send in your questions. We love the questions that we get, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye bye.